Hi, Eric. How you doing today?
Hey, Eddie. Good.
Awesome. Awesome, Eric. Listen, today I want to talk to you about your pay per SQL service, outsourced sales managed service, so that users of the Teltos marketplace can identify if this service is a good fit for their needs or not. There's three questions I want to cover with you today to identify that. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one, which is going to be who is the best fit for this service offer?
So the best fit for this offer are B2B companies who are hungry. They want to grow their top of the funnel and feed their AEs or SDRs with more qualified sales opportunities. You typically, if your target addressable market, your TAM is fairly large, and and it's not niche, right? We can help you, right? Because you need to have speed and you need to reach these decision makers as fast as possible in a scalable, automated fashion. Number two, if you have a disruptive product where it lends itself nicely to do outreach, outbound, right? Compared to if it's a commoditized or a well-established industry where people, like, if they have a problem and they want to find that product, they can easily do it through search and inbound, right? But if you have something disruptive, you want to use a disruptive approach and go outbound and educate educate the market and find decision makers that may care about solving a problem that they may not even know that they have, right? So that's the second qualifier. And third is we do offer a performance-based model. So for that, for the return on investment to make sense, your ticket size or your average, your annual cost of the product needs to be of a certain size. So we typically say, if your ACV is over 10,000 a year, we can help. If your TAM is over 10,000 accounts or higher, we can help. And if you have an innovative product and you want to scale, we can help. So those are the three qualifiers.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So if I got this right, just to quickly recap, it needs to be a company with a large TAM. This is not something for account-based marketing. If you just have a handful of companies you want to go after, this is not going to be the right type of solution. But if you know your sector, you know your category, there's at least 10,000 companies that you can pursue, then this is a good strategy. It's great for awareness, right? If you're disrupting a category or creating a category with your product, with your solution, this is going to be a good fit. And at least a 10K annual contract value, right? So that there's enough ROI. If it's below that, they may not see, or they would require very high volume, but above that, they are going to start to get a positive ROI, and it's a performance-based model. So they're not just paying for a retainer, hoping that at some point something starts providing results, but rather they're paying for the leads. In this case, you were mentioning sales qualified leads. So this is not an appointment set in the calendar, but rather walk me through a little bit of what is the qualification process. What type of outcome do buyers of this service get?
Yeah. So we have a trademark on meeting ready leads. So we call it MRLs. Basically, it's a special type of SQL where we're hitting one of the qualified accounts that the client's going to review and say, yeah, this is an account that I want to get into. These are the types of personas or decision makers that I want to talk to. And if we get their willingness for a meeting or a demo or discovery call in writing off of an email communication or LinkedIn communication, we classify it as a meeting ready lead. So that's our definition of our SQLs or SAL. Some people call it, sales accepted leads. But so there is a little bit of logistics involved in actually converting this meeting ready lead into an actual meeting or an appointment, and that's a responsibility of our clients, right? But we get into that point of
I love it. And I like how this ties with what you said earlier, that you can plug in very well with either the SDRs or the account executives of the companies, because these are leads that are not in the calendar. So the SDRs can work them, follow up until they put them in the calendar, or even the AEs, if it's not such a big team, maybe they can go down a little bit, just work the lead and put them on their own calendar and then work them until they close them. Now, you also just mentioned email and LinkedIn. So that takes me to my second question, a main question, which is, what are the components of this service offer? If you can talk to me, you just mentioned the channels that will be included. Talk to me about the tools, because I heard that you have some interesting platforms and proprietary systems for both of these channels. So talk to me about processes, people, and platforms involved, please.
Yeah, great question. So we've been around for well over 2 decades, and in the last 7 years, we've actually developed 8 standalone products that many other lead gen agencies, our peers, use to to do their lead gen service.
Right.
The core engines, one of them is called Emmy, the other one's called Leah. Emmy is our cold email engine. Leah is our cold LinkedIn engine, right? But we also have another tech stack on the data side. For example, we have a tool called Golden Leads, which is a LinkedIn sales nav scraper. We have another tool called Scrubby, which validates risky or catch-all emails, which oftentimes is 50% of a list that you validate after you pull them from ZoomInfo or Apollo or from LinkedIn Sales Nav, right? So we've got this whole suite of lead gen specific tech stack that we've developed that we use also to execute on these campaigns. As far as people, we have dedicated account managers or client success managers that work with our clients on messaging and also defining their TAM. So those are the two inputs that we need to come up with, and then we also come up with different strategies on how to execute these campaigns. So, for example, what I mean with that is the traditional model is you say, hey, this is my ICP client, the ideal client profile. Let's say energy companies, energy and utilities, 50 million and up in revenues in Texas, right? I want to hit them, right? Or there's other ways of doing that, right? We can say, hey, look for companies who are hiring for new CFOs, right? Hit them because it's more relevant to my offering. Or come up with companies that are, or hit contacts that are following my competitors on LinkedIn, or engaging with different influencers on Twitter, for example. So we can come up with like different strategies to make sure that we're hitting the sweet spot contacts and accounts. Exactly. Yeah. And then we actually recently rolled out another very hot strategy where we call it CAM, competitor activity monitoring. We can detect new LinkedIn connections so what we can do is we can detect new LinkedIn connections of the account executives of your competition, right? So basically we're getting visibility into the pipeline of your competition. And so with that information, what we can do is we can hit those contacts and say, hey, I notice you might be in the market, right? Because we know they're talking to the AEs or even the BDRs of their competitors, and try to come up with a very clear USP to win that deal before the competition does. So like having strong tech stack is important. Having a very strong strategy is equally important. So you're just not doing spray and pray. So you want to be as surgical at the same time. So you want to maximize both quantity and quality of these leads. So the client is closing deals, not just building pipeline. So
I like that, Eric, because maybe with the first question, people would get the impression that since you're going after a large TAM, oh, this may be a spray and pray solution. Well, it's not, or it may be the cross between both. highly targeted, good strategies, maybe find what are the triggers that make these leads more compelling or more relevant to the offer and the value that we want to provide.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the angle that you mentioned of, hey, we check how your competitors are growing, who they're working, so that if you know how you stack up against those competitors, you may come with an offer. Hey, if you're in the market, you're maybe evaluating these options. We happen to also assist with XYZ that they may not have for you to double check. And that makes it a very interesting way to continue to gain audience. You mentioned both the platforms, a proprietary platforms in the strategies. What about the humans? Are there dedicated reps, managers, contacts when someone hires this service?
Yeah. So again, we assign a dedicated client success manager along with an inbox manager and a copywriter, right? So the and a data analyst, right? So the client success managers is the main point of contact with the client, and then we will again we'll come up with a strategy. The strategy is going to dictate what the data analyst is going to do, where they're going to pull the relevant data, and then the strategy is also going to dictate what the copy should look like, right? The messaging and for the writer. And so once these and then one, and that's important on setting up the campaign, which typically takes 2 weeks or so. Once we're launched, then the inbox manager is making sure that we're any response that come in is managed and replied to in a very timely fashion, and the meeting ready responses are passed on to the client as soon as possible.
Fantastic, Eric. So I guess that leads into my last question, which is you mentioned a 2-week onboarding, right? So if you can describe to me what a client typically gets in the first 120 days of buying the service, I may extend more than you take to deliver the value, but this is for you to maybe walk through what does business as usual looks like after ramped up. And as you describe this onboarding process, talk to me, you mentioned LinkedIn. A lot of people may be wondering, do you just shout on my profiles? Do you bring on avatars in case I don't have a strong presence? Ideally, you want to use the C-suite, right, profiles, but if you can double click on that as you walk us through the onboarding, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. So the client can elect to say, hey, I want to do this outreach on email only or LinkedIn only or both. 80% of our clients, especially on the performance-based plan, they say, hey, use both channels, right? I do want to preface, in addition to performance-based, we do offer something similar to retainer, which is, we call it tech stack based. The reason we call it that way is you can say, hey, I want to use this tech stack, and I want some help with the onboarding phase or with the management phase of it, until I get to a point where I don't need your help with, and you can take it in-house. So we offer that flexibility in this tech stack based pricing as well. So that's another option that I want to also say it's available. So as far as LinkedIn, we set them up on avatars. So avatars are AI generated or ID verified profiles that we get permission to use on the campaigns. We're going to brand them to make them employees of the company, right? And then we're going to do outreach on their behalf. We don't want to touch the client's profile because of risk of restrictions, and so this way it's zero risk to the client, and we can scale as much as we want, right? So if we're going with the LinkedIn option, we set up the avatars, we brand them, we make sure they're warmed up, they have good SSI, or they have good reputation before we start campaigning on them. We come up with a messaging sequence, which is slightly different than on for email, and then we feed it with the relevant data, and then off it goes, right? We put them into Leah, and then it starts generating these leads. On email, we also don't touch the root domain of the client. We buy proxy domains, right? So let's say IBM.com is a client. we buy, mail-ibm.com or marketing-ibm or buyibm.com, right? So we buy these proxy domains, we warm them up, and so it takes 2 to 3 weeks to warm up these new inboxes and domains. And again, data, messaging, and we kick off the campaign. So that's where the like 2 to 3 weeks of setup comes into play for both email and LinkedIn.
Right.
And then we start generating leads within, as soon as we start launching, we start generating leads, and we can calibrate the volume depending on what the client wants, right? If they want more leads, we can throw more avatars or more inboxes or domains. If it's too much for them, we slow things down, right? And or we can lengthen the cadences between the so there's different ways that we can speed things up and slow things down. And then our pricing model also is like, we have a pay-as-you-go model. So where like every week when we have a review session with the client, they say, hey, these 23 meetings were great, or these 23 meeting ready leads were great. We'll pay for them. And then, or I think, so after this pay-as-you-go period, which is usually a 2 or 3 month phase, we want to go to a prepay model, which is a little bit easier to manage, cleaner to manage, right? So they say, hey, for the next 90 days, for the next quarter, we want 120 leads. So they'll prepay for that amount, and then we sort of like count down as we deliver them. So that's what they can expect.
That's pretty robust, Eric, because what you basically mentioned is they have the option of running this themselves, right? Do it yourself. But this specific service is done with you or almost done for you, full enablement, right? It includes everything. We give you the outcome. We run the tools ourselves. But if at some point you want to start handling this and take it in-house, just like as you mentioned at the beginning, other agencies use these to build their pipelines for their clients. Your clients can still use their tools for themselves. Maybe as a startup continues to grow, and then once they have a full-fledged team, hey, bring the tools inside, we manage everything. But at that point, they would do it after having the expertise of your guidance, learning the lessons, trialing some errors, and as you said, being flexible with ramping up or down the volume. There's many levers that you can tweak to, as you said, spread out the cadence, speed it up, add more leads with more profiles, etc. And something that I like, that I want to emphasize a lot and make sure that the viewers get, very low risk. A lot of people is fearful of providing their LinkedIn, and I've seen a lot of cases where agencies take a lot of measures, but nonetheless, red flag, LinkedIn jail, they don't use the right VPN, whatever it can be. There's so many things that can go wrong, and it's against the policies. So you want to play it safe there. You guys create parallel profiles, parallel domains. You have the tools to warm those up, to grow those up, so your clients don't have to worry about that. And then you create the strategy, the messaging, deploy, and make it rain, baby. I love it. Eric,
That's it. You summed it up much better than I did. Good.
Hey, I'm just doing a quick summary. Eric, you know the ins and outs of your business, so that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this info. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience in terms of, again, who's a good fit, who's not a good fit? When is it the right time to start these campaigns or not?
Yeah, I think we covered everything. No, and I think you give a really nice summary. So yeah, welcome any company that we can help grow their business. From a our sweet spot is working with like early stage venture backed tech startups, right? Because they're really hungry to grow that funnel. But we have bigger companies, publicly traded tech companies like Ring Central, Beyond Trust, and all and as clients, and basically any B2B company that wants to that wants to grow their top of the funnel, we can help them. So
awesome. Awesome, Eric. If you're listening to this and you want to have a meeting with Vendisys, by all means, go to the Cloud Tools Marketplace, hit the interview button, and Vendisys will be there to assist you. Eric, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for providing clear information for users of the Cloud Tools Marketplace. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one, okay?
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Eddie. Talk soon.
Also, appreciate your time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.